Well, happy end of the first week of teacher workdays, everybody. Happy first Friday. But it's probably going to be Monday or maybe Sunday or who knows when you're going to see this video. But anyways, I have decided that I needed to get back into making some coaching on demand videos because as much as I try to be everywhere and anywhere all at once, well, I am human. So I'm hoping that as we move through the year together, everybody, that these videos will provide some support and some useful ideas or tips or tricks as we're working together and as we're responding to the most dangerous game in the world, that is of a teenager. What I wanted to do with this video, everybody, is I really wanted to share some thoughts that I have as, a 20-year educator. It's kind of crazy to think that I've been doing this for 20 years. But as a 20-year educator, what do I spend my first week doing with my students? And what's funny is I actually don't spend a whole lot of time teaching my students content in the first week of school. In the first week of school, I start by really teaching my students routines. I teach my students how it is that we do things in my classroom. I teach my students how to be successful in my classroom and the ways by which we are successful in the classroom. I teach them about my grading policies and my grading routines. I'm a little bit, avant-garde, new school, crazy, whatever you want to call me, but it takes the kids a little bit of time to understand about replacing grades, and it's about the skill, not about the assessment and all of that sort of stuff. So it takes them some time to get used to that. But the thing that I think that I try to do in the first week of school, everybody, is I try to make sure that my students are teaching me more than I'm teaching them. They're teaching me about themselves. They're teaching me about their interests. They're teaching me their names. They're teaching me a lot of things if I just really pay attention. And I'm probably going to gather a whole lot of data from that first week of school about how I might need to help some kids more than others, or how some kids might be more ready than others. Another thing that I really tried to make sure that I did by the end of my first week of school is I always tried to make sure that by the end of that first week, the students that were kind of just giving me a weird vibe, the kids that I maybe was having some second guesses or some apprehensions about, I tried to make sure that I reached out to those families at the beginning of the school year, because I wanted to make sure that they knew that that line of communication was open and that they knew that I was already paying attention. Now, of course, I wouldn't start that phone call with, the bad thing or the negative thing. I always try to start that conversation in a really positive way so that they can see that I'm seeing the potential in their student, that I'm not sort of like prejudicing or kind of front loading any negativity into that year. But that's my first week. It's a pretty simple first week for me as an English teacher. Of course, I want to get them to read and write, and I want to see what their skills are looking like. And I definitely do that in the first week of school as well. But for me as an English teacher, it was always really lovely because I could get them to write about themselves and I could get them to share their personal reactions to a text. And that was another way that I could get a really good handle on who they were as people. Now, of course, everybody, y'all know that as a researcher and as an educator, I can't not cite a source while I'm doing this work. And I really wanted to share one of my favorite books I've had for a long time. It's on my bookshelf for a reason, and it's pretty dated, but it's pretty good. And that, everybody, is The First Days of School by Harry and Rosemary Wong. This book, everybody, is a really fantastic look because it really makes clear something that I say a lot, that good teaching is good teaching is good teaching. And it doesn't matter if it's in the elementary school classroom, middle school, high school, or even college and graduate, right? Some of us think about some really fantastic professors or teachers that we have or have had. And if we take one step backwards, we can recognize that the things that they do are kind of similar when we really kind of think about that. So when we get into this book, everyone, it really kind of goes through like the key routines or the key things to do. And number one, everybody, it's really just kind of being like positive expectations, right? How do you set and communicate positive, high expectations for your students? But then how do you also provide them the pathway? right? That's what I meant by kind of teaching them how to do it. We've got to talk about classroom management, right? How do you manage your classroom? What are your routines and your systems for doing the things in the room? I had a former colleague of mine who, I think her second day of school, she actually did like a mock fire drill, and she took the kids outside, she brought them back in, and she worked them through that routine to kind of make sure that they were ready to do what they needed to do when they needed to evacuate the classroom. And then the third thing that it talks about, everybody, is really the idea of like approaching and achieving mastery and how we help students to develop that process as well. And it's about kind of thinking about our lesson design, our assessment design, and that's of course something that we've talked about a lot so far in this opening of year, but I know we're not going to probably have it pinned down exactly from the beginning, so that's a place that we've got to keep responding to the students as they show us the needs. But again, everybody, this book is a fantastic resource. If you're interested in maybe checking it out from here, I could always let you borrow my copy as well. But I think that this book really, it's like I said, it's old, but it's classic for a reason. And there's some really great thinking in here to help all students reach levels of success, no matter where they start. Because again, one of my big sayings that I like to bring about all the time, everybody, is it's not about where they start, it's about where they finish. And we can always build that successful pathway to make sure that where a student starts is not where they finish. We got to find a way to keep moving forward no matter where they start. So anyways, everybody, we're going to talk a lot more this year as we move together and work together and do all these amazing things together. I hope that you found maybe something useful or thought-provoking or interesting from this video. Down below in the description, I'm going to include a link to some resources connected to this book that you might find helpful. But like I said, if you're interested in checking this book out and taking a look, come on up and let me know. I'm in 236E, everybody, and I'm here to support you at all the times here at Dudley High School. I hope to see you around the building this week. Have a great, great day.